Something is up with the Dallas Stars. Jason Robertson is apparently available for a trade. The Blue Jackets should be all over this, and I'll tell you why on today's episode of Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. I also have to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. So, Jason Robertson is not a defenseman, but the Dallas Stars have apparently just kind of made it known that he might potentially be made available in trades, which I got no idea what's going on over there in Dallas. Like the coach is calling out the starting goalie, who is like probably going to be one of the top two American-born goalies for the Olympics in the spring. Or the winter, I guess technically it's the Winter Olympics. And now apparently, like, Jason Robertson's available. I don't understand what's happening with the Dallas Stars. They went and made a big move for Mikko Rantanen, signed into that huge $12 million extension. And now they've got no money, I guess. So have they decided that maybe they don't need Robertson now that they've got Rantanen? Seems risky to me, because as we all know, you could never have that, like, oh no, you've got too many good top six wingers or top three wingers, like top line wingers. Baffling to me, quite frankly. I will say Jason Robertson had a down year this year, by which I mean he only scored 35 goals and had 80 points, which actually was the same number of points he had last year. But he played slightly less. It was a slightly lower plus minus, which we don't really care about on this show, and scored less on the power play. He created a little bit less offense this season. So he went from being astronomically good to merely very, very good. Like, still, again, I'm using hockeyviz.com for my stats here. Still comfortably above a first-line player quality. So, like, first-line players have a rating this year of about 6 or 7, and Robertson came in at 10. That's not out of anything. That's just, like, the grading system that Micah uses. But, like, that's just kind of the context here is people talk about Jason Robertson having a down year, and he still would have been, I believe, second on the Blue Jackets in scoring, would have led them in goals. Just an all-round good player. Had 109 points 2 years ago. He had 46 goals. Like, since his rookie season, he played 3 games in the 2019-2020 season, but his real rookie season was 2020-21. Played 51 games and had 45 points. Since then, he's had 79 points in 74 games, 109 points in 82, 80 points in 82, and 80 points in 82 the last 2 seasons. Has 3 30-goal seasons under his belt in 4 full seasons, and one of those seasons he only played 74 of the 82 games. Like, this is a game-changing elite winger, right? Like, this is what you want Kent Johnson to be, right? This is where you want him to be. Kent Johnson's a different kind of player, but this is the level that you want him to hit, right? And now apparently he's available. And the Blue Jackets, like, they should be all over this. There's no way around it. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, well, like, there should be 31 teams that are interested in Jason Robertson. 32 teams should be interested in Jason Robertson. I don't know why the Stars are planning on moving on from him, or, like, thinking about moving on from him. Is it that they think he's going to cost too much? He needs a new contract next season, which, you know, we'll talk about in a minute here. But, like, I don't understand what the Stars are doing when you have a player of this caliber who, again, like, the Blue Jackets need wingers. They need top 6 left wingers specifically, and that is exactly what Jason Robertson is. I think he fits into the system much better than, like, frankly, any of the UFA wingers that we've talked about. I think he fits into the system better than Mitch Marner. I think he's better than Nick Ehlers. I think he's better than Brock Besser. Like, this is a guy that, again, you put him with Fantilli and Johnson and just watch those 3 go. You know, he's only 25 years old. Again, needs a new contract. He's currently making 7.75. So, like, that's a problem that you're going to have to deal with next summer. But as of right now, like, I don't see what I'm so confused as to what decision making is happening behind, like, closed doors in Dallas. The only thing I can look at is that they have about $3 of cap space. They have $5 million in cap space, but they've only got 8 forwards, 6 defensemen, and 2 goalies in that amount. So they need at least another goalie and probably 5 more forwards. Jamie Benn, notable UFA. Matt Duchene, notable UFA. Mikael Granlund, who I think they were pretty high on. Maverick Bourque needs a new contract. He's an RFA. So, like, this all kind of comes into play in a minute here when we look at what the Blue Jackets can offer the Stars that maybe some other teams can't. But, like, that to me, I'm like, the only reason that I could see them moving on for Robertson is money, because he is just a great player. Like, he's one of those guys that I'm like, man, I really wish the Blue Jackets had gone after him, right? And okay, yes, he didn't have the most productive playoffs for the Stars this postseason. I believe he was injured for part of it, but he only had 6 points in the 11 games that he did play, 4 goals, 2 assists. However, again, in the regular season, he was second on the team in scoring. The only player that had more points than him was Matt Duchene, who had 82 points. And no one on the team had more goals than him. The closest was Wyatt Johnson, who had 33. Like, this is one of those players that, again, you look at and you're like, why are they making him available? But he's also one of those players that you look at and you're like, man, I would love to take. I wish we had a Jason Robertson on the team, right? And here's the kicker: he went in the 2nd round, right? He was the 39th overall pick that year. Where the Blue Jackets ended up picking. They didn't have their 1st round pick that year, I don't think. If I can find where it's at. I don't believe they did. So, okay, technically, the Blue Jackets did not pass on Jason Robertson, but that's only because their earliest pick in that draft was 45th overall, where they took Alexander Texier. But, like, every other team that had a 1st round pick, and, you know, some of them had a 2nd round pick. Some teams passed on him twice, and he's out here, you know, like, again, he's got 394 points in 374 career games, almost 400 career points in 5 and a bit full seasons. Like, insane, like, truly bonkers. But for whatever reason, Stars are moving on. Or thinking about moving on, I should say. Like, I don't know what let me pull up what the actual news report said, because basically it's come out like, are they shopping him, or are they listening to offers, right? Because those are two different things. But it looks to me that Jim Nill is considering shopping him. Some people are saying, you know, is it okay? Here you go. Jeff Marek wonders if Nill might consider shopping Robertson to clear cap space for big game hunting. For example, if they get rid of Robertson, that frees up some cap space to then add a Mitch Marner, potentially. Now, I don't know that a Mitch Marner moves, like, I don't know that getting rid of Robertson to make room for Mitch Marner is, like, the move that I would make. But I'm not the GM of the Dallas Stars. And, like, again, the Dallas Stars are one of the better teams in in the NHL. Like they were they're always on the list or have been for the past kind of handful of years of like, oh, this team could win the cup. And they usually fall at, the second or third hurdle. But they're a team that is always in the mix for the Final Four, right? And I don't know that, like, maybe they see this as okay, well, if we save that $8 million on Robertson, we don't have to re-sign him next summer. We can get Mitch Marner to come in and then, put Marner with Rantanen and Wyatt Johnson, and there's your top line, and then you can figure everything else out. But I don't know. The point here is, for whatever reason, seems like he's available. They haven't come out and said he's not available. Something's going on in Dallas. Robertson's available, and the Blue Jackets should absolutely be in on this. Like, Don Waddell should be calling every day with a new, more insane offer, because players like this don't come around that often. Now, here's the thing. You can sign free agents without losing anything, apart from, the millions and millions of dollars, but you don't have to lose any, like, roster pieces or draft picks if you go out and offer Mitch Marner a contract, for example. I'm just going to use Marner because he's the obvious, like, other choice, right? To get a guy like Jason Robertson, you're going to have to give substantial roster pieces and picks up, right? Like, the closest comparable for me is probably going to be that Matthew Tkachuk sign and trade a couple of years ago, where the Panthers traded Jonathan Huberdeau and Mackenzie Weegar and I think a first-round pick for Matthew Tkachuk, which was a huge, huge trade, like truly, truly bonkers. The Flames also received, they got a prospect and a conditional first-round pick, which I believe has now converted to a first-round pick officially. The Panthers got a conditional fourth-round pick, so stuff. Basically, it was Tkachuk for Huberdeau, Weegar, and a first-round pick. So what does that mean if you're looking at Jason Robertson as a comparable? Well, we'll talk about that in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First though, I'm going to tell you about Monarch Money. Do you ever check your bank account and wonder, like, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, and they're your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. It's not just a budgeting app, it is a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you can stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch Money, I realized just how much I was spending on, like, coffee and little treats when I'm out and about. Now I budget smarter and save more, and you don't have to juggle multiple apps either. You don't have to go to your banking app and then a budgeting app and then a spreadsheet and then back to your banking app. You can just use Monarch to track your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That is monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for 50% off your first year. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. We're talking all about Jason Robertson. Is he available? Apparently so. Blue Jackets should absolutely be in on this. But what's the price going to be? Because the price is going to have to be hefty. However, the Stars, depending on why they're moving Robertson, right? And if we assume that it's because cap space is the thing, that's the Blue Jackets' biggest weapon, I feel like, is can they take some contract that the Stars would like to get rid of. I don't know what that contract would be off the top of my head. Like looking at the cap, the roster. Like they don't have any dead cap. They've got like one more year of paying Ryan Suter. But there's no like what I would consider an albatross contract. They don't have a Damon Severson to try and get rid of, right? Like, ostensibly, Tyler Seguin is making nearly $10 million for the next 2 seasons. Like, I don't know if that would be an option. I don't know if, like, for example, Mason Marchment could be made available. Sam Steele is making 2.1 for the next 2 years. Like, they don't have contracts to get rid of like that, right? So the question then becomes, well, what can the Blue Jackets offer if cap space isn't the option? But the Stars can't take too much back, right? Again, like Jason Robertson is making 7.75 at the minute. So for me, the biggest weapon that the Blue Jackets have are those first round picks, right? They've got 14th overall and 20th overall. They've also got a lot of solid young players. I don't know if they would be interested in any of them, like in terms of, is, for example, a Luca Del Blues an option for them? Is Gavin Brindley an option for them? Like, I don't know what they want. is the answer here? Like, they need cheap forwards to respond with. Like, I wonder if they could take a flyer on like Igor Chinikov, for example. If that's an option, if you start with at least one of the first round picks this year, potentially a first round pick next year, a roster player and a prospect, like, is that enough to get it done? If you also potentially take another contract that they don't want off their hands, like, because again, I looked at the Tkachuk trade and I was like, okay, well, what's the equivalent to Mackenzie Weegar and Jonathan Huberdeau on the Blue Jackets? And like, there isn't really one. And also, Jonathan Huberdeau is currently making like $10.5 million to be, as I understand it, not great in Calgary. Mackenzie Weegar's been great for them, but the Blue Jackets don't have like a defensive defenseman to give away, and they also don't really have like an elite winger that I think anyway they would be willing to give up, because like your equivalent is like potentially, and I know he's not a winger, but potentially your equivalent is like giving them Sean Monahan, right? Which I wouldn't do. I don't think. I thought about it, but I don't think I would do it. And then I'm like, okay, well, I don't know what Dallas wants, I guess is the point that I'm making here. But I think any offer that Columbus makes should start with, hey, we have 2 first-round picks this year and a first-round pick next year. What if we start with 14th overall this year, pick next year? What, like, throw in Igor Chinikov, throw in a prospect. How close are we? And if it turns out that the answer is not that close, well, then you go back to the drawing board. But, like, this feels like a trade that you have to try to make, right? Like, again, Columbus needs a player like Robertson. I know that a lot of people said no on Marner because they basically already have Marner in Kent Johnson, potentially. Great news. You can have 2 great wingers. Like, you can have 2 good wingers. You can have more. You can actually have 8 good wingers on a team. Like, and again, just the fact that players like Jason Robertson do not become available for basically ever. Again, I'm looking at it, I'm like, well, who was the, like, is the only comparable, like, the Matthew Tkachuk trade? Like, ostensibly, I guess the Mikko Rantanen trade, but that feels kind of different. But you should try to be in on this. Again, the Blue Jackets have prospects to spare. They've got draft picks to spare. They've got cap space to weaponize. Like, they are probably more set up than most teams would be to do this, I feel like, because the teams that have the cap space probably don't have the assets. Like, for example, the Sharks. Like, what are the Sharks going to give up for a guy like Jason Robertson? Like, there are teams that are like the Hurricanes. I could see being in on Robertson. They have cap space and also potentially assets, but like, in terms of the kind of assets that Dallas wants, I really do think the cap space and the draft capital specifically is what they want. And I don't know what the Hurricanes draft pick situation is like right now. They've got 1 this year, and then they've got 2 next year. Well, they've got Dallas's first round pick next year, actually, and their own pick. So, there's probably something there. But for me, anyway, the Blue Jackets should absolutely try to do what they can to get Jason Robertson. And I do think that conversation starts with, well, we've got $40 million in cap space, so we'll take a bad contract if there's one that they want to get rid of. Again, I'm not like thrilled about the Sagan contract, but it is what it is. And worst case scenario, you can probably bury that. But if you want to take, like, again, I don't know a ton about the Dallas Stars, so I don't know how effective guys like Mason Marchment and Sam Steele are. I know that Wild fans complained all day long about Sam Steele when he was with them, so maybe that's like an option there. But for me, that's where the conversation starts, is right. Do you have contracts you want to get rid of? Great. Let's talk. What if we take X contract and Robertson, and you can have a first-round pick this year, a first-round pick next year, and Igor Chinikov? That, to me, feels... Maybe you don't need both first-round picks if you're going to retain... not retain salary, but, eat salary or take a bad contract. But for me, that's where the conversation starts, is, okay, how about a first-round pick and Igor Chinikov, and we'll take a bad contract off your books so you can, have space to do whatever you want. And then go from there. The question then becomes, okay, great, you've got Jason Robertson. He's doing great. He's scoring 50 goals on your team. Needs a new contract next summer. What could that contract look like for the Blue Jackets? Let's talk about that in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. We're talking all about Jason Robertson. We've done the deed. We've made the trade. He's on the Blue Jackets now. He's an RFA next season. Season after that, he's a UFA. He's going to want a contract. Well, obviously, they all want contracts, but my guess is, let's say he likes it in Columbus. He wants to sign long-term. How much is Jason Robertson going to cost, right? Because he is an extremely, extremely good player, and the good players cost, right? He's currently making 7.75. He's in the last year of that contract, and is, has the potential to be probably a top 2 player on the Blue Jackets next season. So let's say he does that. Let's say he bounces back. Bounces back, quote unquote. Let's say he has a 90 to 100 point season next year and scores 40 goals. What kind of contract do you sign him to? Do you throw, 10 by 8 at him and hope that'll be enough? Do you think in a year's time he's going to be able to command something more than that? Like, you'll have team control, so it's not going to be like the Marner situation where he can, test free agency. But what does that contract look like? And what does that contract look like, in terms of what the Blue Jackets have to do? Because, yes, they have $41 million in cap space right now. They've got contracts that need signing. Adam Fantilli needs a new contract next summer. Dmitry Voronkov needs a new contract right now. Like, there's a lot of moving parts. Zach Werenski needs a new contract in a couple of years. Like, Kromachenko needs a new contract in a couple of years. Kent Johnson in a couple of years, right? Like, there's pieces that you're going to need to save some money for. Can you afford to give $10+ million to a guy like Robertson? And I think the answer is yes. If you were willing to give Mitch Marner $14 million, then you should certainly be willing to give Jason Robertson $10 million. Because for me, not that they're like similar players necessarily. Mitch Marner is more of a playmaker. Jason Robertson is a goal scorer, but they both are extremely, extremely talented offensive players. Robertson is shockingly good defensively as well. And frankly, again, looking at, and I know that hockeyviz.com is not the be-all and end-all, it's just the model that I like to use. Robertson grades out better than Marner. I know Marner had 100 points this season, but the model likes Robertson better. I don't know how people feel about his playoff experience. He's got 44 points in 56 games in the playoffs. Obviously, only played 11 this year. Was, I think, injured to begin the playoffs. He got injured at the beginning of the near the end of the regular season, I feel like. And then missed the entire first series, and then came in, played all the games against Winnipeg, played the games against Edmonton as well. So I don't think he was 100%. So I'm willing to let that 6 points in 11 games slide this year. But again, 44 points in 56 games, including 18 goals, is not terrible, right? So especially again, if you take out this postseason, what you've got is 45 games and 38 points, I believe, if I'm doing the math right. So 38 points in 45 games prior to this year is, pretty solid postseason record. I think if you can get this done for $10 million a year for 8 years, that's a contract that I would sign easily. I probably would go up to maybe not quite Rantanen money, but I would definitely entertain. Okay, well we'll start at 9. They'll start at, we'll start at 8 or 9. His team will start at 11 or 12, and we'll meet somewhere in the middle, around about 9.5, 10.5, something like that. And I think if that's a contract that you can get him to sign, I think you do that so easily. I think he'll fit in perfectly on the Blue Jackets. Just to wrap up my thoughts on Robertson, again, you've got a supremely talented offensive player that is also very good defensively, is great on the power play when the power play is not terrible. So maybe we shouldn't rely on him to light up the power play. He had 98 of his 80 points this year. 19 of them came on the power play. But again, I don't know off the top of my head who led the Blue Jackets in power play scoring this season. But my guess is they probably had about that many points. It was probably Zach Werenski. Now that I come to think about it, but this is the step forward that this team should try to make. We've talked a lot about, well, who do they add this summer? Who do they add this summer? Who do they add this summer? We've looked at a lot of UFAs. There are still some RFAs that I want to look at, but learning that Jason Robertson is being made available again, I think the last time he signed a contract extension, I was like, the Blue Jackets should offer sheet the Stars for Jason Robertson. Unfortunately, GMs are cowards and don't offer sheet anyone. Don Waddell has offer sheeted in the past, but I don't know how much of that was spite from the owner of the Hurricanes about the Sebastian Aho Jesperi Kotkaniemi drama. But we know that Don Waddell is a guy that has sent out offer sheets before. So again, we'll see what happens. But for me, Jason Robertson is absolutely someone that I would spend 7 digits on, 8 digits on. I don't know how. 8 digits. Yeah, $10 million is 8 digits, right? I could do math. I would spend, $80 million on Jason Robertson, and I'd probably do it quite easily. Because again, just you put him with Fantilli and Johnson, watch him go. I don't know that it would fit in quite as well with Monahan and Marchenko, which does mean you have to figure out who you're going to put on their wing. But if that's 5 of your top 6 in Marchenko, Monahan, Fantilli, Johnson, Robertson, it's all good. It's all good. Figure it out. Blue Jackets need to be in on Robertson. I don't think they're going to be really in on Marner, just based on the stories that are coming out over the past couple of days. I know that they are preparing a big package for him, or putting together a big offer. I think he goes west. I think he probably goes to a tax-free state. But Robertson feels like there's potential there, and the Blue Jackets should absolutely be in on Robertson. So that's all I've got for today. Tomorrow we will do what I planned to do last episode until I got a migraine and couldn't. And we are going to talk about the Buffalo Sabres. Speaking of teams that are blowing it up for reasons that I can't really figure out. It makes more sense with the Sabres, I guess. But we're going to take a look at the Buffalo Sabres. We're going to take a look at Alex Tuch, JJ Peterka, Owen Power, Bo Byram. We're going to take a look at Devin Levi. Let's see what we can pick from the corpse of the 2025 Buffalo Sabres. So that's going to be tomorrow's episode. Thank you for making it. Thank you for making this episode your first listen of the day, every single day. After Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Blue Sky at Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTER. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jackets on Twitter. And thank you once again for listening. Until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.